It's all right. I'm sorry. The video cut off. But anyway, what if that's the reason why he has these booby traps in his mansion in the first place? And like, so, people, intruders won't, get far if they ever try to intrude. You know what I mean? They're not going to make it far, right? So that's what I mean when I say like using 15% of that, or 20% of that fan fiction of your own flavor and try to incorporate it into the existing canon to be like, okay, and you don't have to even make it obvious. It's just that, or you can just have Spencer give a gesture about, how some of his crew and the ways they get killed in the cave. He's like, that's interesting. You know what I mean? And it could be so, you just be kind of subtle. You're like, you know what I mean? But he finds it, and we're gonna keep that canon rolling, and that can be a flashback. That could actually be the opening shot of the movie. Honestly, that could be the opening shot of the movie. Then we jump. You know what I mean? What, 30 years? We jump 30 years. Okay, they get the flower. We found it, or you know what I mean? Or we can do jump cuts back and forward to showing how a young Spencer and a young James Marcus and a young Alexander Ashford were working together, building the company. You know what I'm saying? Giving you little hints of flashbacks in here and there. But, you have to commit to it, though. That's the thing. If you're going to do it, you have to go all the way, right? Just like with the S.T.A.R.S unit, like, you got to have everybody on the S.T.A.R.S unit, and you also got to have the whole entire Bravo team in the film, too. You have to commit. That's the thing. You have to commit. And they all have to play their part, and they all have to have a significant role, you know, in the story. They can't just be there for cannon fodder. They are, the Bravo team is an actual, capable team. So they have to have their own little flavor, and their own interactions with the S.T.A.R.S unit. And the S.T.A.R.S unit, we should show like what these commandos can actually do. Like, you just said S.T.A.R.S unit. We don't know what that means. Special Tactics and Rescue Service. We don't know what that means. How about we show an establishing scene of them actually doing something? It could be a bomb threat. It could be a hostage situation, and the S.T.A.R.S unit has to come in and work as a team. So we see that as an audience, like, okay, they are a real team. They work together. You know what I mean? It could be a little rivalry with Chris and Wesker, because Wesker's this hot shot, and Chris got passed up for captain, and he feels some type of way because Wesker just came in, and he hasn't been with the RPD for long, and he just kind of rolls up the chains. Chris doesn't know there's a reason for that. The audience knows, and that gets us giddy, but Chris doesn't know. You see what I'm saying? So he doesn't know why Captain Wesker, Albert Wesker, has went up the chain so fast, but his record's impeccable. You can't really argue with the man. He's cool, calm, and collected. He's Albert fucking Wesker. So it could be a little rivalry with that, and a little Broken Arrow. I think about Broken Arrow with John Travolta and Christian Slater. I think about that opening scene with that boxing and shit. I think about like Chris and Wesker like that. They got a little rivalry going on, like but just you have to commit. That's the thing, and that's the thing that some directors, when most directors can't. They can't write around it. They're like, how do I keep this canon and keep the audience guessing? Keep it damn near verbatim, but also give them something with some new flavor into it, mixing my own, artistic style into it with some new flavor, but also keeping it legit and proper. That's what writers cannot get around when it comes to making a Resident Evil film. So they go the other route. They just go fan fiction. That's what we do. We do Alice. Hey, it works. It made money. Whatever. True enough, I see what Anderson was going for in the first film, but if he just would have put a little bit more willpower into it, if he just would have just really put that thinking cap on, he could have made a legit Resident Evil 1 film. I mean, there's no reason why the commandos, there's no reason why the commandos in the first film just can't be the S.T.A.R.S unit, right? Right? I'm just saying, you got a mansion in there, you don't even utilize it. I'm like, what's the point of that? That was some fan service. That's when, hey, here's the mansion, bye. It's like, wow. But why writers just can't they can't figure out that Rubik's cube on how to keep that canon and keep it legit and keep it coherent and concise and have new moviegoers who never heard of Resident Evil, who wants to watch, who knows this is a zombie film, but actually sits down to watch the film for the first time, and they actually understand what's going on. They know about, okay, they're learning about Spencer, they're learning about James Marcus, they're learning about Africa, they're learning about what's going on with it, how this corporation is very shady and doing all this genetic mutations and experimentations on humans and uh, viral weaponry and BOWs and how Spencer wants to, live forever and create those, create the ultimate being, So that's a lot. And you have to sprinkle that into your first movie. Look, that is a tall order to keep it legit. To keep it legit and have the audience like, oh, this is really good. What's going to happen? Because the core of the first Resident Evil film is a murder mystery. It has to be a somewhat of a slow burn. That's another thing. Your suspense. How you gonna break out these murders? These murders. How are you gonna establish that? What they will establish a scene of that. And I was thinking to myself, why not just have a family camping? Just camping in the woods. Father's on vacation. He works for Umbrella. Um, his name is John. He has a wife. John's cheating, so they want to have a little, family time with the kid, and so they go out camping because he just got back home or whatever because he's been traveling a lot because he's an Umbrella executive. Turns out that John is actually having an affair with Ada, and if you pick that up, John and Ada, you put two and two together. Ada is playing John because John is his Umbrella exec and he knows a lot, and Ada needs to get that info. John doesn't know that, but let's just say the wife finds out that he's cheating that night, and the kid is back in the back. Well, not in the back, but he's around, woods and whatever, in the cabin and everything. And he's playing fetch with the dog and he throws the ball out too far. And they're arguing about who is she, John? Who is she? Who the fuck is she? Do you love her? And I says, he loses track of the kid. The kid goes out, the dog goes out to get the ball. The dog goes out. He goes out too far. And it's dark as fuck. It's the forest, it's raccoon forest. It's dark as fuck, and he goes out too far, and he gets a whiff or something. So he goes deeper, and it comes back to the kid, and all of a sudden the kid is waiting, and it comes back to them arguing, and the kid is waiting. It comes back to the kid is waiting, and he calls out for the money. He calls out for the dog's name or whatever, and all of a sudden you hear something like that. It kind of it frightens the kid because let's say the kid's like what 12. He's like, no, 11. No, fuck that. Let's just say he's 8, 9. Yeah. So it really kind of is off-putting. And of course, the kid goes into the forest looking for the dog, and it doesn't end well for the kid. Just something like that. And then the father goes, and he doesn't come back. And now she's all alone in the cabin, doesn't know what's going on. You know what I mean? So she's down 911. Turns out there's a zombie already in there, and she gets devoured. Like while the dispatcher's like, ma'am. I mean, you actually hear her getting devoured over the phone. 911 dispatch, whatever. See that? I mean, something simple like that. It could be a little bit more intricate. Because that's just me, just off the top of my head. Like it can be like, it's great writers and directors out there to come up with something a little bit better than that. But just like something like bam, boom, bam. How do we get that started? These murders, these mysteries. How do we get it started? That's not making any sense. These bodies are just disappearing, and you find the kid. He's been damn near eaten alive, and the dog's been disemboweled, and the father's missing, and the mother gets eaten alive in the fucking kitchen. So it's like of the cabin. So it's because the thing about zombies, they're quiet and they lurk. You know what I mean? It's she's not got the door unlocked, and she locks the door or whatever, or she doesn't. In a panic. So just stuff like that. But the point is to commit to a film adaptation, and I give like. When it comes to stuff like that, I think about films like the first Silent Hill film adaptation by Christopher Gans, right? So that was you can see the passion, you can see the dedication, you can see the attention to detail. You see the 75% canon. You know what I mean? 25% fan fiction. You see it, but you see for the most part, he kept it close to the chest, even with Akira Yamaoka's music and the cinematography and the hell and the hellish in the hell world of Silent Hill, and the fog and the snow and all that with the fog and the ash. So you can tell, you know, he took some liberties, and that's what I'm saying. Putting your own style, putting your own fan fiction, putting your own flavor into it. But for the most part, that film is about a parent looking for their child and trying to save their child, just like in the fucking first game. So I took it for what it was. But the way it was executed, and see, that's the thing. The way it was executed is why that 2006 film gets high praise and it has a cult following to this day. And that's what I'm saying. We're trying to make a Resident Evil film that has that same type of high praise. Like, I can go watch Silent Hill right now. It's a good film. It's not like it is not boring. It keeps me engaged. When I was watching it, I felt like I was in Silent Hill. I was like, okay, yeah, okay. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. The original music and the sound effects and cinematography and the art design, the set designs, and the transition into the hell world, and just keeping it a hard R as well. I really appreciated that. So, the passion, the dedication, and riding that fine line between fan fiction and canon is so important when you're trying to make a film adaptation that will make or break your film when it comes to the writing aspect of it. That will, it's going to be forgettable, or you're going to still be talking about it 10 years from now, like how people are still talking about 2006 Silent Hill movie 10 years now. And now there's, the sequel coming out. So, and Christopher Gans is doing that. And, he's behind that, and I'm so happy he's back. So I hope Zach Kreger sees this, because I am a big fan of Barbarian, and I love the weapons, especially that opening scene when they're running, and that song. I had to go actually download that song, because that song is fire. That song is so good. But yeah, I just hope maybe you get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm just a guy rambling. I was just a guy who loves Resident Evil, so. I'm a fan just like any rest of you guys. So it's just, I think the fans deserve a really good Resident Evil film. That's all. I just think the fans deserve a really good Resident Evil film. It's time. Johannes Roberts couldn't figure it out. He couldn't crack the code. He went the exact opposite. Actually, it's like, he just went the fan fiction. He went totally fan fiction. Like, he didn't even try. Like, he tried, but he didn't try. I'm like, how can you have all the seasoning and recipes to make this film, and you and you pull off these set designs with the RPD? Granted, it was mostly CGI on the inside. You pull off these set designs with the mansion. Granted, it was mostly CGI. You got the recipe, and then it's like you just added a whole bunch of shit that doesn't belong in the sauce. You see what I'm saying? It's like, why didn't you just use the original KFC recipe of Resident Evil, like 11 herbs and spices? Like, for real, why did you try to replicate the original recipe? It's like, what are you